Hi, welcome back to another Take 5 with David Krayden. We're talking this morning with Josh Alexander. And of course, we know Josh as the student who stood up for principle in Ottawa and got turfed from high school for doing so. And Josh decided that something needed to be said and done about males going into female washrooms, and the females weren't comfortable with it. And he said, why aren't we just defining people by male and female biologically anymore? And so before we get into your protest, I just want to ask you, Josh, how has it been going from a virtually unknown student to almost a symbol, an icon for many Canadians now about the battle against this craziness that's going on in our schools, this ideological battle against the LGBTQ agenda?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Recently, it's obviously been quite a hectic journey, to say the least. There's something new every week, and it is tiring. But at the same time, I recognize that, like you said, people need an example to follow. Young people need an example. I've been put in a place I believe it's the right thing to do, so I'm just going to keep on trucking.
Well, that's good. We need you. I just want to show a brief clip here from a protest that you organized in Ottawa, and I think this is phenomenal. If we just watch this here, just
leave the kids alone. Leave the kids alone. Leave the kids alone.
All right, we're here currently at the protest. We got a bunch of young kids here with their Arab parents, and they are stomping the pride flag here at the protest. The Arab community is sending a message, I believe, to the woke that they are not accepting of this, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Yes.
Good.
Any message you'd like to send today? To just
our kids alone.
Leave your kids alone. What?
Daddy, walk up.
Yes. Leave the kids alone, she says, ladies and gentlemen. Leave the kids alone. All right.
Now, I find a couple of things interesting. I've heard a few people say, including the guy who filmed that, and I thank him for using that, the plebe reporter, the pleb reporter. But some people have said, maybe they shouldn't have been stomping on the pride flag because it's a flag. And I say, no, it's not a flag. It's not recognized as a flag by any country. And it's, as far as I call it, the rainbow rag. I do not believe it's a flag, and I say go ahead, stomp on it, because it is, for me, a symbol of hatred and divisiveness for anybody, all races and religions, who happen to disagree with this LGBTQ agenda. And I'm just wondering, how did you feel about this? Because when I saw this video, and unfortunately, the one day I wasn't in Ottawa, I missed this, but when I looked at this video, I said, this must be political hell for Justin Trudeau, because in his universe, everybody's a victim, except, of course, the ruling class, which he doesn't admit to be part of. But what trumps homophobia? Does Islamophobia trump homophobia, or does homophobia trump Islamophobia? Because he has divided Canada into so many subgroups, so many identities, that now he has to decide who's more of a victim here. The Muslims, who he claims are victims, who are adamantly against this pride flag being displayed, or the whole LGBTQ community, who are all victims, according to Trudeau. So, what are your thoughts about what happened here on Friday?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that have been complaining about that video in particular. Personally, when I see that, I'm not too concerned about it. I personally believe that people have the right to do whatever they want on their own time and have their symbols and whatnot. However, the pride flag, they took the rainbow, which was a symbol from the Bible, which came after the flood, which was because of the sodomy and the perversion of our world. And it's a complete mockery of the Christian faith, that flag. And I also think it's different when kids are doing it. This flag is in schools, it's everywhere, and it's pushed on kids. And it doesn't bother me in the slightest to see kids turning around on it and stomping on it. That doesn't bother me. And I know that'll upset a lot of people, but a flag that represents sodomy and perversion does not belong around kids. So I'm happy to see kids standing up against it.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's being imposed upon them by school boards across Ontario and across Canada, and for them to just say we accept this willingly, and for parents to be forced to accept this without any protest, to me is a huge infringement upon basic rights in this country. And I'll be getting into that in a second, because Trudeau doesn't believe parents have any rights at all, and that they shouldn't even be informed about what their children supposedly decide at a very tender age, which has huge consequences. And it's absolutely absurd to me. But do you think perhaps, and I was very involved in the marriage debate quite some time ago, before your time, but I took a year off my work to fight for traditional marriage, because I said, if we give in on this, it's going to be the beginning, and I hate to use the cliche, but of the slippery slope. And of course, that's exactly what's happened. It did turn out to be a slippery slope. And everybody now is jumping on this bandwagon of collective rights, saying that their rights are special, their rights are different. And I'm waiting for the day, well, not waiting, but dreading the day when pedophilia is included in the pride flag and is included in the LGBTQ alphabet soup, because that's coming next. And that's going to be the next group that's going to demand special status in this country. But I found it out interesting, like just as during the marriage debate, a lot of Hindus and Sikhs started coming on board with conservative policies because they just couldn't agree with same-sex marriage. I think we're seeing a transformation here of groups that Trudeau thinks and the Liberal Party thinks are in their pocket that are coming loose. Because I think we Christians, I'm an evangelical Christian. I know you are too. Conservative Catholics, we have a lot in common with Muslims, with some basic moral questions, and they've made that quite clear. Do you think the Liberals are going to lose a key constituency here?
Yeah, I think they're running that risk everywhere I go across the country. When students come out, a lot of them are Muslim students. And I know that immigrants are often they often lean left when they vote because the left brings them in. But at the same time, they're very socially conservative. And when I meet these families and these students, they're not gonna stick around for this garbage, and they know who's pushing it. So I think they are risking losing quite a strong voting base. And I mean, more and more, I'm having more of them reach out to me, more communities and more volunteers and all that. So I think we've just awoken a sleeping giant.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to show you a clip here. This is Trudeau just before he made his surprise visit to Ukraine, gave away another $500 million. But he made a surprise visit to a group in New Brunswick, and he was pumping this latest cause of his, which is the Rainbow Railroad, and making Canada a haven for so-called refugees of the LGBTQ persuasion. But while he was there, he decided to make his thoughts known about New Brunswick, latest controversy, where the Premier of New Brunswick has decided that parents do have the right to know if their children are making a decision to change their gender. I mean, I think that's just so much common sense. And I don't know anybody who would say, no, they don't have that right. But who doesn't think they have that right is Justin Trudeau. And here he is blathering on.
Kids in New Brunswick are being told they don't have the right to be their true selves, that they need to ask permission. Well, trans kids need to feel safe, not targeted by politicians. We have to stand against this. We have to stand up for the freedoms we believe in and continue our work of letting love be louder than hate.
Yeah, his usual mantra about this having something to do with love. Child abuse has nothing to do with love. And putting children through the kind of torture that they have to endure to change their sex, to change their gender at that age. Does a 15-year-old have the right to change their sex without even telling their parents, Josh?
Well, I would start by saying nobody can change their sex. They can change how they wish to identify, but I mean, I went to school, and like right before I got kicked out, there was actually an incident where a kid wanted some Advil from the office. He wasn't allowed to get Advil until the office phoned his parents and got permission for them to give him a couple tablets of Advil. However, if he wanted to change his pronouns, start converting, it would be a total secret. The parents wouldn't know. They'd have separate paperwork, and that's their policy on that. That's not even hidden. You can find that on the school board's website. And so I think it's a complete double standard. It's ridiculous. It's child abuse. The school board would embrace this dysphoria, and it needs to end.
Yeah, because in some cases we're talking about chemical castration.
Yeah.
And it's that to me is just an absolute madness. But for Trudeau to stand up and say that parents have no right, the state has the right, essentially, this is really the subtext here. It's nothing to do with so-called LGBTQ rights, whatever those are anymore. It's about the state deciding whether your child can declare his or herself a different gender one day. And it's to me, this is very dangerous, because we're no longer a society or democracy where parents raise their children. The state is raising the children. And Trudeau is using this whole transitional nonsense to justify this kind of basic takeover of democratic rights, going back to the Magna Carta. I mean, this is to me what Trudeau has become all about. He's an authoritarian. He showed how much of a dictator he was during the Freedom Convoy, froze bank accounts, including a close family member of mine who just happened to donate to the Freedom Convoy, wasn't even out protesting, just happened to donate. She had her bank account frozen. And this is the kind of authoritarian measures this government takes. And now they think the state should be raising our kids.
Yeah, and that's something we're seeing all over the place, and it's a problem. It's a serious problem. But I mean, I myself was homeschooled till grade 7, and I heavily promote homeschooling. I think it's the best option right now. Mm-hmm. I do think if their students are old enough and ready enough and responsible enough, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put them in the education system and just stir the pot a bit. But right now, we've just got a bunch of kids being indoctrinated 5 hours a day, and it's scary.
Yeah, there's a video from initially TikTok that's made its way onto Twitter. I included it in my post-millennial story this morning, and it's a would-be teacher in New Brunswick. I think she's 2 years into some sort of apprenticeship program, becoming a teacher, or she's taking her education degree. And she's literally crying about the fact that parents are going to be informed from now on, well, at least as long as we can hope for, about any decisions taken by their children about supposedly changing their gender. And she's crying about how she won't be forced to out children. And how dare the parents think they have this right? And to me, it's absolute madness. And one of the people commenting saying, "Tell me this isn't a cult," because it looks like Jonestown, the way these people are carrying on about a non-issue. And it really should be commonsensical to me that parents should be knowing what their kids are doing in school, especially if it's consequential like this, but changing, as long as at least they think they are changing their gender and their sex. And so I just find this mind-boggling. But it proves to me that we did indeed go down a slippery slope when we started toying with natural law and biblical law. And I thank you for your courage as a Christian to stand up and make the comment that the rainbow flag has appropriated, quite inappropriately, the rainbow imagery from the Bible. Because, as you're quite right, the flood was caused because of a moral collapse on the earth, I think much like we're enduring right now, and we're going through right now. And it's been totally misappropriated by the LGBTQ community, and I use that word very loosely, and shouldn't be. But that's, that's certainly one reason you'll never see it flying from my rooftop. I want to get quickly too. I thank you for your time this morning. Maxime Bernier, I know you're out. I think you're out there right now in Manitoba, giving Maxine a hand. I tweeted to him. I sent him a direct message last night saying, Maxime, keep fighting, because you need to push these issues, given the fact that the federal Conservative Party has disappointed me. I usually support them on their fiscal policy and on other issues. I know there's a lot of members of that caucus who would love to speak out on your behalf, but Pierre Poilievre has said nothing about what happened to you. He has said nothing about his opposition to drag queen story hours, and he has said nothing about his opposition, if in fact exists, to this whole LGBTQ agenda that's encroaching upon parental rights. So why are you supporting Maxine?
Well, yeah, and mainly it's because he's the only politician in Canada that has stood up for me and has stood up for reality, biology, any normalcy left in the nation. And Poilievre just not long ago, like 2 weeks ago, was asked on camera, "What about Josh Alexander?" He knows who I am. He's spoken to me, and they said, "Why have you remained silent on that? Why won't you talk about gender ideology?" And his response was just directly attack Maxime Bernier and say Maxime Bernier is using me. I mean, that's not the case. I'm a young man. I'm capable of making my own decisions. Maxime Bernier helped me, and I want to return the favor. I think we have a great opportunity to put a strong voice in the Parliament here in Portage Lisgar, and that's why I've traveled across the country to come help him. And I think that when I go to all these schools and these hundreds of students come out and speak for me, it's sad that we don't have a single politician in the country that will represent them. So that's why I'm so passionate and dedicated about getting at least one voice in there right now.
Has Pierre Poilievre personally given his support to you when he's talked to you, or has he been non-committal?
When I spoke to him, he just said it was a shame that I got arrested and whatnot. And I responded by saying to him, "So why don't you say that on the national level?" I told him, you want to be the leader of the nation. It's your responsibility as a leader to speak out for these young ladies. And it's also your responsibility as a man. Just have some basic respect and chivalry. And we left it at that. And that was months ago. There's been nothing since.
No, he hasn't got the political or personal courage to speak out on your behalf, and that's very unfortunate. And I think we need that kind of courage. You're exhibiting that kind of courage. And I think a lot of us who are speaking out on these issues are doing that because, believe me, there's a huge blowback from government, from the mainstream media, from big tech, which can deplatform people overnight. Candace Owens just lost her place on YouTube because of she was speaking out on these trans issues, and so it can happen to anybody overnight. But that it will not stop. I know you, and it won't stop me from speaking out about these issues. So I think we need Maxine in Ottawa, if only to keep the Conservative Party honest, because without pushing from the right, without pushing from a more common sense viewpoint, a lot of policies tend to get buried, and a lot of issues tend not to be talked about, because the Conservatives get very cowardly, very pusillanimous, as I like to say, in what they want to say, what they want to talk about. And you can't just talk about the budget. You can't just talk about the carbon tax. Those are important to Canadians. Rising mortgage rates are important to Canadians. Rising inflation is important to Canadians. But so is the decimation and the destruction of the social fabric of this country. That's very important to Canadians, very important to me. And I know a lot of Canadians think we're losing this country because fanatics like Justin Trudeau are in charge. People who are pushing a very bizarre and at times obscene agenda. They are in charge, and we have to push back. And I think the Conservative Party needs to be part of that pushback. And I hope and pray it will be, because I think it will be the next government in Canada, which will certainly be an improvement on what we have, but it needs to find the courage to speak out for people like you, Josh. And so I wish you all the best. Let's stay in touch. I'll have you on again anytime you have the chance, because I'm supporting you 100%. And I know, what are you going to do about this school year? I mean, what position have they put you in? Do you have to repeat the whole year?
I would have to repeat the whole year. At this point, I'm not even able to do that. As it stands right now, I'm not allowed back onto the school for an indefinite amount of time. The school year is obviously coming to a close. I've had 2 court days so far, and we're just trying to get to the point where we can even be able to appeal some of these disciplinary actions. But at this point, there's been no progress.
Well, we are hoping and praying for you at the Krayden household, and we support you. And we will see you at the next event in Ottawa. And stay courageous and keep up the fight, Josh, because one man can make a difference, as the Bible clearly says at times. So I thank you for your time today.
Yeah,
and please keep fighting.
Thank you. God bless.